What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Amateur Hour Sports. For today's Raptors Happy Hour live stream, we're back with the Happy Hours for the first time in 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago was the day that my laptop decided to stop working. Middle of the day, 2 weeks ago. I had Raptors Happy Hours prepped for later that day. Had Raptors Watch Along prepped for later that day. It was a game against the Magic. Couldn't do it. Had no device to do it from. And since then, been dealing with getting everything back under control. We are at that point with the new computer. And with all the assets back, everything, back to normal in my life from a content perspective. Raptors Happy Hour streams have returned. We are out here for Monday, January 12th, which means we have 2 weeks of news to not necessarily catch up on, but there is a lot to talk about on the show today. Title of the stream, Raptors starting to run out of options, because it kind of does feel that way from a trade front. Some of the players they were interested in, like Trae Young and Anthony Davis, aren't really up for trade anymore. I mean, one could be, but not really good trade candidates or trade candidates at all anymore for the Raptors. So that's limiting their options. And also, based on the vibe we're getting around the league of what the Raptors can offer out there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest in what the Raptors are holding, which, again, leads to a situation, scoreboard off, leads to a situation where the Raptors, yeah, absolutely, they're kind of running out of options as we get closer and closer to that early February trade deadline. So that's going to kind of be the theme of the episode today. Specific topics that we're going to touch on. We're going to talk about Trae Young, the trade. It's been like a week since that trade happened now, but we're going to be looking into what the Hawks got for Trae Young, the Raptors, what they were offering because they were interested, and the problems that have arisen from that news. Then we're going to talk about Anthony Davis. We're going to talk about his chances of potentially still being traded despite the latest injury news, and if it might still be viable for the Raptors to target him. Interesting one to maybe follow. Then we're going to talk about Ja Morant. He's on the trade block. That could be the next player the Raptors eye and look to get. And we'll also discuss a little bit maybe of some other players the Raptors could target and some quality players the Raptors could target. And along the way, as always, we will be answering questions from the chat, hanging out with you as well. Thank you for joining me here on today's Raptors Happy Hour stream. If you enjoyed to see from the show today, make sure you hit the like button. Also, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Makes a big difference if you help us out in doing that. Smarn Sharma, Blaze45, YT, Adam, JN, Smarn Sharma, Aaron Green. Thank you guys for coming through, hanging out with me here today. Does anyone know if we got our players back? So, Brandon Ingram is questionable. I saw that earlier today. RJ Barrett is out. I'll just double check the latest here. I got him from work relatively recently, so not a ton of time for me to dive into everything on the Raptors front. Brandon Ingram is still questionable. I don't see any updates on Brandon Ingram, so he's questionable coming today. No RJ Barrett. Scotty Barnes is still going to be in, which is good. He was great yesterday. And no Jakob Poeltl. I haven't seen any changes on Jakob Poeltl to discuss. So, yeah, still dealing with. Oh, and Jacoby Walters is out. Joey Walter is out for this one after the hip pointer injury he picked up in yesterday's win against the 76ers. What a win yesterday, by the way. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, RJ Barrett for sure out. A nice comeback win against the 76ers. Always great to beat the Sixers, but to do it in that fashion, Scotty Barnes doing it there. I don't imagine Barnes has the most fantastic of relationships with Nick Nurse, so I'm sure he was happy to be heavily involved late. He got the winning free throw and then the purposely missed free throw, which that was a fun win. That was a lot of fun, and a lot of fun streaming for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that one, watching it, the game, and maybe if you're watching me in chat as well, maybe you like that one as well. But anyways, big conversation for today is on the trade front. That's really where that's really where the focus of the stream is going to lie today. And we're going to start off here by talking about Trae Young. We're going to revisit that trade, talk about what he got traded for, what they said no to from the Raptors, and the significance of all of that information. So again, it's old news at this point, but we're just going to get to it now because I missed a week or 2 weeks of content. But important information kind of came from this one here because Trae Young got traded for, well, I mean, first of all, let's look at the trade. The Hawks got rid of Trae Young. It was known around the league that they were going to trade him, right? Like, it wasn't a secret. So, that automatically decreases your value when you outright say guy's going to get traded. They traded him to the Wizards, his preferred destination. I think that's for the financial reasons because he probably thinks the best chance of getting a max. Traded for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. Now, Corey Kispert's definitely not a scrub. Like, he's a solid, rotational guy. But, you're talking about Trae Young here. You got CJ McCollum, just salary filler for this one. Flexibility for the Hawks when the contract comes off the books. You got like a solid rotation player. But we're talking about Trae Young. We're talking about a 4-time All-Star. We're talking about, seriously, this is one of like the best playmakers in the NBA. Guy can give you, high 20 points per game. Just Trae Young. I was pretty stunned that the Hawks didn't manage to get any draft capital out of that trade. And some Raptors fans were kind of speculating, like, could the Raptors not have done better than this? Like, those who are interested in Trae Young, like myself, could the Raptors not have done better than this? Like, surely we would have been a team to offer picks for Trae Young, at least one pick. But turns out the Raptors had an offer, but according to the Hawks, it wasn't better than what they got. So, reporting from Jake Fisher, who is very good with his Raptors sources, say that Toronto actually offered a package built around Quickley and draft capital for Young before last February's trade deadline and maintain a level of interest in Young this season. Yet, sources say the Hawks had no interest in a Quickley headline package given the future money he's owed. The Hawks staunchly prioritize the ample flexibility they now have before the February 5th trade deadline and possibly into free agency next summer by taking CJ McCollum's expiring $30.7 million salary as the key return in the Young deal. So they value the expiring salary of CJ McCollum over the caliber of play of Immanuel Quickley. Now, for Immanuel Quickley, this is a very damning piece of evidence against where his game is at right now and where his contract is at right now. The fact that the Hawks said no to that, like, they turned down picks with it. It is clear as day the situation for Immanuel Quickley and for the Raptors. The situation is that the Raptors, if they do want to trade Quickley, this is comfortably, easily perceived to be a negative asset. This is a negative asset. The Raptors are going to have to pay to get rid of this Immanuel Quickley contract. They are going to have to go above and beyond with a trade in order to include Immanuel Quickley, it seems, because it is just straight up undesirable to own this contract. He's making $32.5 million this season, then $32.5 million for the next 3 years after this, all of which is guaranteed to the player. And when the Raptors signed him, 2024 offseason, it was a bit of an overpay at the time. I was, expecting to come into like the high 20s range. 32.5 was a bit of an overpay for the player. And I thought like high 20s, like, okay, you're paying a lot just to keep him, to make sure you keep him. You look back on it now, obviously in hindsight, pretty bad decision. But at the time, you think about like, who was going to you don't want to lose him, but he was a restricted free agent. Like, who was going to compete with this offer? Who was going to give him more? Granted, the teams can give him less and he can still make that level of money because of the tax situation in Toronto, heavier than some other places around the NBA. But who was going to match this? And, the Raptors, okay, they gave it to him. I accepted that at the time. They're paying a bit too much, but the hope is that at some point in that 5-year contract, he plays up to the point where it's not an overpay. He's playing up to the value of that $32.5 million contract. But ever since he's signed it, he has, honestly, he has regressed. It has gotten worse since he signed that deal. Last season, hampered by injuries. So, comparing what he did with the Raptors in the half season he spent here after getting traded, where he averaged 18.6 points, 42% from the field, almost 40% from three. Last season was somewhat similar. He played less minutes because of the tank and injuries, but he averaged 17 points, 42% from the field, 38% from three. Not a huge difference when you go to the per 36 numbers, from 23-24 to 24-25. So we thought this year, all right, he's healthy finally. He's going into this season healthy finally. No excuses. He's got to start producing this year. But it has been a very shock level of regression for the player. Sure, touches are going to come down when you inject Brandon Ingram into the team. But he's down to 16.5 points per game. Still at 42% shooting from the field. And alarmingly, he's fallen all the way down to 35% shooting from three. We've really shoehorned him into this spot at point guard because his style of play is best suited towards a shooting guard. I think that's pretty evident. But we put him into this position as a point guard because he's a bit undersized for the shooting guard position. His size is more fitting for that of a point guard. So the Raptors wanted to get him in this spot. And they wanted him to develop in this position. What needed to happen with that is as the Raptors were, in their rebuild mode and getting better, hopefully, you wanted his playmaking to develop. But we've seen very obviously in his 39 games this season, and granted, he's been available, and that's a good trait. We've seen in those games this season that the playmaking doesn't seem to have improved at all. And a lot of the decision-making that we're seeing is a bit concerning. Some of the decision-making is very concerning for the player. In that win against the 76ers, he was awful from the most part. He had a decent fourth quarter overtime. But some of the decision making in key moments was just completely off. And it's alarming that these sorts of mistakes are still happening as he's getting towards his prime. And as we're a year and a half into this massive contract. So that's why the Hawks had no interest in taking him. That's why we've seen reports that the Sacramento Kings have no interest in a Immanuel Quickley built package for a guy like Domantas Sabonis. Now, I don't really want Sabonis. That's fine with me. But there is a definite lack of interest in Immanuel Quickley around the league because of the contract and because of the level of play that he has produced for the Raptors. It's putting us in a tough spot. It's putting us in a little bit of a corner here because there is a lot more money and time dedicated towards him going forward. There's not a lot of interest from a trade front. I don't think they're going to be able to trade him because if they do trade him, it's just getting off of that contract at the moment. So I think the way forward, unfortunately, is going to be we've got to hold the asset, and he just needs to be better. He needs to improve. He cannot keep performing to this degree. We need better. We need him to start producing. When your game, because hasn't developed much as a point guard. This is more of a shooting guard playing in that position, which sure is fine, but because the point guard elements of his game haven't come along as we wanted, so much of his game revolves around his ability to space the floor and hit threes. And when he's not doing that part of his game effectively, everything else starts to crumble with it. And it has to improve. He has to improve as a playmaker. He has to improve as a scorer. He has to improve as a defender. Or the Raptors will be capped by having him on the team. There's been games where Jamal Shed, second year, 45th overall pick, has to close instead of him. That just can't be happening. So we'll see. He could be the center of some sort of trades we get towards the trade deadline. But, I mean, you look around at the teams out there. Who's going to want him? Why would anybody want that and think, oh, hell yeah, I'll pay the other 3.5 years of that contract? It's a bad look for the Raptors. Daniel Harris and Chad's IQ's value is rock bottom at the moment, so not an ideal time to move him, so we just got to be patient. And that might be the best way because there's just no value in it. You have to pay to get off it. Is it better just to hope he gets better? Smart and Sherman says IQ is a good defender and is good in clutch, but how much he's getting, he needs to put in more. He needs to stop selling and start to lock in. Debatable on the defender front. He came in as a guy with like potential there. Haven't seen it develop. Was never that good on ball. Was more like an off ball. He was better in those spots, but even then, it's been like hasn't been to the level you'd want for the Raptors. And Feels Good Man says it's fun watching IQ dig this team into a hole for 3 quarters, then dig us out in the fourth. Part of that is true. He has been really good in fourth quarters and overtime this season when he's needed to be, but you could make a case part of the reason they're in that position sometimes is because of him. Sure, that might be making it a bit of a stretch, but as a whole, Immanuel Quickley needs to step up, and the lack of interest and the money owed to him shows the dire situation the Raptors are currently in with him. He's got to be better, He got to be better. He had 4 steals, sure. Yesterday, he stole a bunch, and that's good. That's helpful. I'm talking about an entire season here, not one specific game, where steals aren't always the perfect indicator of defense either, by the way. He is 26. We could develop it a little more if the Raptors can't move him. Yeah, I agree, but sometimes it's not as much development. Like, we know he can and should be better than this. Doesn't really come down to development at a certain point. He has to be better, for sure. We can talk about Ja Morant a little bit later on. We're gonna save that. Ja Morant is definitely a player I want to discuss with this. We're gonna get to that a little bit later on. So we'll save questions for that for a bit. I want to keep him, but also trade him. You can't have both. I was like a pretty large defender of Immanuel Quickley last season, and he's let me down. I understood the frustration with the amount, but I looked at it like we've got 4 more years of this. He can get better in the offseason when he's healthy, but that hasn't happened. And he's done nothing to instill confidence in me. I think the criticism surrounding the player right now is extremely warranted. It's one thing to be doing all the right things on the court and it's not coming off, but that pull-up 3 in transition against the 76ers yesterday in the clutch when he was having a bad game, that was just like pretty astonishing lack of awareness of the situation there. That was definitely concerning. Like, I don't know where the team is headed with him. It's brutal. It's backbreaking sort of decisions from him at the moment, which shouldn't be happening to a guy at this stage. The shot with like 5 seconds left, that one I think is more forgivable. It was probably the play. That was probably the play the Raptors drew up. And the idea behind taking the shot early there is it worked. Like, you take that shot early because if it doesn't go, you can get another shot hopefully after that. And that's what happened because he missed. The Raptors were able to get an extra possession out of it. If he had waited till the buzzer, then maybe they don't. That was probably the play. The play was getting the ball. He's got to take that shot. That I'm okay with. I don't blame him as much as like it wasn't a great play, to be honest. But like the pull-up 3 in transition with like a minute or 2 left was just egregious decision-making and inexcusable, quite frankly. The Grizzlies will take his contract if Toronto attaches a pick to it. We'll see. I would think so, but after the Hawks said no, I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. But yeah, it's becoming extremely frustrating. His play this season. That's for certain. Sometimes you say it's not for the lack of trying. For Quickley, you might be able to make a case it is for the lack of trying. So, on him. It's on him to be better, get better, and help this team. Help this team more than he's doing right now. And reading the room, maybe. Reading the room maybe a little bit more right now. I would trade Quickley for Kyle Kuzma. Let's pump the brakes. We're not that desperate to get rid of him. We'll be okay without Kyle Kuzma on this team. If you get rid of Quickley, you need a freaking point guard. You can't just go without a starting point guard. As much as I like Jamal Shed, not quite starting point guard level that the team needs, unfortunately. You just gotta be able to bend that. Say this, people who think Jamal Shed can just be the starter. I think he'd be a decent starter, but I think you need to. I think that you need to be. I think there needs to be a bigger understanding of Jamal Shed's limitations on offense at the moment, where how much is he bending the defense? Not really a ton. Like, he's a good player. I think he's a very good backup point guard, but there's a different level to reach when you're the starting point guard and the impact you need to bring. I don't think he's quite there. But right now, he's finishing games. He's closing games. He's doing so effectively. So let that continue. There's still a bit of ways to go for him to improve enough to be a starting point guard. So if you're moving quickly, I very much believe you need to have that position in mind of somebody that you're getting back there. Can Scottie Barnes develop into a Jalen Johnson type player? I don't think like we're in wildly different tiers of talent here. It's like, are we saying Scottie Barnes is not at a Jalen Johnson sort of level of play? I mean, I'm a big Jalen Johnson respecter, and I have been for a comfortable amount of time now. I wasn't early on it, but I've been a big respecter of his game. I don't think like we're in different universes of talent at the moment. Jalen Johnson's fantastic. That's the guy the Hawks are building around, but like develop into this type of player. I think we're pretty much in the same level right now. Maybe Jalen Johnson outproducing him. We're on the same tier of players here, in my opinion. Trade RJ for Kuzma. Listen. I've been supportive of RJ trades, but we're not doing fucking Kyle Kuzma, man. What the hell are we doing? What the hell are we doing here? No cussing. I'm gonna cuss sometimes. Sorry. That's a problem. We have to click off. Yo, it ain't a circus, but I'm going to swear. Raptors won't make a big trade. No one wants IQ or Jakob contract. Raptors only need to swap Abaji for a backup center like Day'Ron Sharpe. Abaji's not getting Day'Ron Sharpe, pal. Put that dream to bed right now. Abaji might get you like Brook Lopez. He's not getting you Day'Ron Sharpe. Let's be realistic here. Anyways, we'll talk about centers here. The big center that the Raptors could maybe think about getting. The recent development of news has scared off a lot of teams for the right reason. But maybe there's still an opportunity to get a deal done for Anthony Davis. Let's look at the recent development for the injury, the newest stories that have come out as a result, and if the Raptors could still be interested in acquiring his services. So, Shams Charania of ESPN, I'll pull up the tweet here, put out this one that really shook the Anthony Davis trade industry, we'll call it. It said, Dallas Mavericks star Anthony Davis sustained a ligament damage in his left hand. Sources tell me and Tim McMahon, depending on second opinion and if surgery is needed, Davis could miss a number of months. So, Anthony Davis, what's new, has picked up another injury. This was a player that was rumored to be maybe getting put on the trade block by the Dallas Mavericks, and rumors were circulating that the Toronto Raptors were one of the teams that were the most interested in acquiring his services. Then this news breaks, and there is a drastic shift in the probability of Anthony Davis getting traded. Anthony Davis had a pretty good chance of getting traded, but ever since this news has come out, he has fallen down to, actually, this is taking a jump today, which might highlight something I'm going to say. So it's gone up 8%. It was at 9% on him. But for Anthony Davis, 17% chance of getting traded. Right before the injury news broke, he had a 75% chance of getting traded, and this news made this plummet all the way down to where we're seeing it right now. But for a period of time, it was looking very likely that he was getting traded, and the Raptors were one of the teams interested. Maybe this has scared some teams off, but we should look into if the Raptors might still want to try and pull this one off. And the reason I say that is you could make a case that the Raptors team, despite their record, it's excellent, it's 24-16. You might make a case that this is not a championship caliber team, and trading for Anthony Davis helps get you closer to that going forward. As a result of this injury, there's not going to be a lot of interest out there for Anthony Davis. So could this be the opportune moment for you to get Anthony Davis in on an extremely cut price deal? Players like Anthony Davis don't become available often at all. So to be able to get him for a cut price deal, is that something that entices the Raptors? You'll have to flirt with what it does for your team for the rest of the season, but maybe consider something if it's worth it. Let's try to build out a trade here, and then we'll look into if it's something that the Raptors should actually realistically concede. Think about. So the problem is the $54 million and getting up to that $54 million. I don't see any reason to trade for a center if you're not putting Jakob Poeltl in the deal. And what if at the same time you could get off the Immanuel Quickley contract? Let's see. So Jakob Poeltl's not trade eligible until January 7th. It is past January 7th, so this needs to update. But that's a trade that could get done. What if the Raptors are able to get Anthony Davis and it only costs them one first-round pick? They give them a future first. Let's say 2027, because the idea is to be good next year. They give them a future first. You get off the Immanuel Quickley contract. You get off the Jakob Poeltl contract. Costs you one pick to get Anthony Davis. There's some level of me that feels enticed by that idea. I'm not going to lie. It's just a player of that caliber coming into your team, and you're not really giving up much in order to make it happen. I think that's something that absolutely should be at least coming to a consideration from a front office perspective, if the Dallas Mavericks would even be willing to do something like that in the first place, which obviously would have to be a factor in that whole ordeal as well. But it's just being able to get that player at that price. Now, the problem with doing that is what it does for your team for the rest of the season, for sure. Like, you're in a really good spot in the Eastern Conference right now. You are fourth in the East. You are 24-16. You are making a very strong push for the playoffs. I think that the Raptors are one of the 6 best teams in the Eastern Conference. Absolutely. I think they should be in the playoffs this year. The team, the vibes around it are spectacular right now. Sure, there's a lot of games that maybe they don't deserve to win, but they're grinding out a ton of wins. This is a playoff team. The fan base is kind of hyped around it. The players seem really hyped about it. It's a strong position right now for the on-court product for the Raptors. So part of what you have to do in this situation is convince the players and the fan base that this is the right move forward. And I think it would be not a great look and a not great vote of trust going towards Bobby Webster and the Raptors front office from the players if they're doing this well and he still decides to make this trade, and as a result, start to tank. Because you make this trade, you're taking a step back. Your team is getting worse. That's a pretty tough sell to a team that has put in so much work to get into this position at this point in the NBA season. We're halfway through. The Raptors are the 4th seed in the East. They're 24-16. That's a tough sell to the players. Kind of a tough sell to the fan base as well, that you're bringing in a player that's basically going to sit. If you trade for Anthony Davis right now, he probably gets the Brandon Ingram treatment and sits for the rest of the season. So that adds to the complexity of it. So for me, like I said, I find this to be enticing, but I think it's a real bad look from a player perspective and a fan perspective to abandon what has been an extremely successful start to the season. Look, if you're sitting in like the 9 or 10 seed right now, that might be something I seriously look at and say, well, we should tank anyways, and when we get out of the tank, you have Anthony Davis waiting for you. But, like I said, bad look for the players, bad look for the fan base. You're putting your trust in Anthony Davis, who can't stay healthy, keeps picking up injuries, who's getting older. Like, you have to put your trust in that. And on top of that, there has to actually be an interest from the Dallas Mavericks side of things to get the contracts of Immanuel Quickley and Jakob Poeltl, which every indication around the league is that both of those contracts are extremely undesirable, particularly Immanuel Quickley. So why would the Dallas Mavericks go out and do that? I think for Dallas, get Anthony Davis healthy. I think Dallas honestly should probably really consider just not trading him right now. Just hold him. Try to move him when there's a lot more certainty around his health and a team that's acquiring him can actually use him. There's just way too much going on right now around Anthony Davis where I just don't think Dallas Mavericks are even going to end up moving him. Like we saw, pretty unlikely from a percentage standpoint. Granted, it's going up, but still, even where it is right now in Kalshi, the prediction market, which in a market that doesn't have a ton of volume in it, 18% chance for Anthony Davis would indicate that it's unlikely we see a move, and I think it's really unlikely that we see a move surrounding the Raptors as well. Dallas will be looking for more picks, but hey, I think Bobby Webster wouldn't be doing his job if he's not at least calling and trying to lowball the shit out of them just to kind of gauge the interest on him. That's what I think he should be doing right now, but I wouldn't expect anything to happen here. No point trading for 40 games a year of AD. You likely won't even be healthy for playoffs or will get hurt. You act like he's been healthy the last few years. I don't think I at all acted like he's been healthy for the last few years. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I will send that out to the masses. I don't think at one point there did I make it seem like he's healthy the last few years. I would say the health status the last few years has been somewhat similar to that of Jakob Poeltl. So, there's that. It's not like we're keeping the center who's always available, reliable, and healthy for us. But the latest string of injuries have been very poor pieces of evidence against Anthony Davis being healthy here. It's reported Dallas wants 2 picks for eating bad contract of IQ and Jakob. I mean, to be honest, fair enough. I don't really want to give away 2 picks for this. But, I mean, to be honest, again, fair enough. Those are not good contracts that they're taking on there. Yeah, also, I guess you do have to think about it. If Anthony Davis comes to the Raptors, he's getting Raptors medical team, and they've done some wondrous work in the past. So, could we fix him? Well, other teams can't. I think it's absolutely worth a phone call to see. Offer them IQ, Poeltl, and Grady Dick. Say, we get a young player here. We get AD off your hands. You can get some better point guard play because you don't have a point guard right now. And Immanuel Quickley, you get a new center. Is that something that they legitimately think of? I don't know. Maybe, but probably not. But again, you make the phone call and find out. And if Bobby's anything like Masai, he is doing that. He's doing that. We'll see. Yeah, I think CMB would have to come in the deal. I think that's what a lot of teams will be looking at as far as getting a trade done from the Raptors right now. Sure, if we're going to eat Immanuel Quickley's contract, then we better be getting something good in return, like CMB and a pick. I have always been reluctant to trade Colin Murray-Boyles, but the fact that he has been as good as he has been lately, we need to hang on to that. We haven't hit a lot in the draft recently. We've hit here. This is a player that could turn into something really, really effective for our team going forward. So I am team CMB right now. Definitely has to be some blame on the front office for the contracts that Quickley and Poeltl on. I agree with you, Bulldog, there. They're both two negative assets. Yeah. So how much of... This is a question for everyone, and a question I don't really have the answer to. How much of previous wrongdoings by the front office, how much of that falls on Bobby Webster? Because he's been the GM this entire time, and he still is the general manager. But definitely seemed on the outside looking in that the power dynamic was in Masai Ujiri's hand. Like, that was the top dog. So, like, at the end of the day, the decisions, it seemed to me, fall mostly upon Masai Ujiri. That's not to say that Bobby Webster is completely exempt of all criticism when it comes to wrongdoings by the front office in the last few years, but how much of that falls on him? Like, if the Raptors don't succeed for the next 2 years, they fall short of expectations, let's say, how much of that do we put on Bobby Webster for, like, the years and years of service? I think a bit of it. And I think part of those contracts have to fall on him a little bit because it was a lot of money. You know, like, I think Poeltl would have had quite a bit of interest in the offseason, to be honest. But I wonder for Quickley, like, who was matching that? Like, who were you trying to... He was an RFA. Like, who are you trying to bully off of that player? That, like, who is shelling out money that, like, if we don't give him 32 and a half, he's going to sign somewhere else? I just don't really see it. Yeah, looking back, you wonder. I don't know. Nets have Claxton and has to get playing time for rookies. So moving Daron Ochai. Sorry, you're saying you probably get Daron Sharp for Ochai in 2 to 3 seconds. Not like some great center, only a backup. I actually disagree. I don't think you can probably get Daron Sharp for Ochai Agbaji in 2 to 3 seconds. Like, I think we're undervaluing Daron Sharp a little bit, or we're overvaluing Ochai Agbaji. Like, Daron Sharp's a decent young center who brings good minutes off the bench. You know, does 2 second-round picks equate to that? Probably not. And Agbaji is just salary to the end of the season. It comes off the end of the season. It's not a lot of salary. I think there's a bit of misunderstanding of the value of the two players. Agbaji's worth nothing. Daron Sharp is definitely worth something. Like, he's a solid backup center, young athletic center. There's a desire for that around the NBA. The Nets have it. Like, he's good. They're just not going to give him away. That'd be nice, but they're not just going to do that. So Raps have to probably come up with something better than that. But I see Daron Sharp as a little bit unrealistic. We're going to talk about Ja Morant up next. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure you do hit the like button. It does make a big difference in the channel. We got a lot of people watching today. I appreciate it. Hit the like button. It helps drive us up further in the YouTube algorithm. And lets YouTube know that, hey, if some people like this, other people might like it. If you're new to the channel, I'm live Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern for shows like this, so subscribe to the channel. And I do watch-alongs for Raptors games. In fact, I'm going to be live in just about an hour and a half for the Raptors game against the 76ers tonight for a watch party. Those are much more popular than these streams. But these streams are also good. Support the channel. Support our content. All right. Let's dive into the Ja Morant side of things here. So, big thing we've been talking about here is that a lot of the options surrounding what the Raptors can do towards the NBA trade deadline are becoming limited. Limited because, you know, Trae Young's already got traded. Anthony Davis is now injured. Not a lot of desire in taking the Raptors' assets on. But one player who is available officially and could have some considerations for what the Raptors could offer is Memphis Grizzlies in regards to Ja Morant. So let's discuss if this is a player the Raptors could target, what they could offer, and if it's something that they should go forward with. And for starters, again, not often teams outright do this. They have explicitly stated, according to Shams Charania, just in, for the first time, the Memphis Grizzlies are entertaining offers to potentially move two-time All-Star Ja Morant ahead of the February 5th NBA trade deadline. It's not often that a team goes out of their way, essentially, to say, we're trying to trade him, we are exploring offers for this player. Usually, you keep that one close to your chest. You hide that one, because as soon as you say he's available, automatically decrease the player's value. Now, it's no secret that things haven't been great between Ja Morant and the current Memphis Grizzlies coaching staff. Thomas Usalo and him have been butting heads all season. His production has dropped this season for sure. And it felt like a trade was imminent. But it's still, situations have been like this before, and teams won't outright say they are trying to trade that player. So, interesting move pulled by the Memphis Grizzlies here. So as a result of his value kind of decreasing here, it provided an opportunity for teams around the NBA, such as the Toronto Raptors, to dip into their bag and see what that trade could look like. So few teams probably interested. I'll pull up the Kalshi prediction market on this to see where the Raptors stack up with other teams as far as their potential to land the players. So the most likely destination right now is Brooklyn. Up there with Brooklyn are Sacramento, Miami. We have the Raptors here at 9%, according to this. So low, not a lot of volume in the market. Only $27,000 put into this market from a betting perspective. That's not going to reveal elite information, but it shows that there is somewhat of a position here for the Raptors to make this trade. There's at least something there that the Raptors could do. A little bit of a hint, not like completely valid, 100% credible information. But the Raptors could be in the mix. So Ja Morant this season, like I said, production has fallen. 19 points per game, down from what he's done previously in 23, 25, 26, and 27 points per game. And he's put up very impressive numbers previously. Sorry, the 25 point game was only 9 games played, but still. Mid 20 point per game player. And he's done this on very good teams. He's done this on a 2 seed in the Western Conference. He's gotten MVP votes in 2 seasons. He's been an All-Star twice. He's been All-NBA once. So Ja Morant's a very impressive player who still hasn't hit his prime yet. He's dealt with injuries. He's definitely dealt with suspensions. Question the character that you're bringing into the team as well, and production dropping. I think the production doesn't scare me a ton, because I think in the right environment, we'll see the numbers go back up to what we've seen previously. What definitely does scare me is the character and the attitude issues. He's butt heads with the current coaching staff. He's been suspended on multiple occasions for showing a gun on social media. That's crazy to happen once, let alone to happen twice. You wonder where his head is at, and that is definitely a concern. But I think Ja Morant is such a talented player, and you're going to be able to possibly get him for such a good trade that it might be worth it. The contract isn't even that egregious. You're not, super handcuffed by this. He's going to be making 39. He's 39.4 this year, 42.1 the next year, nearly 45 the next year. That's not crazy. That's not crazy valuation for a player like that. And with so much upside, maybe worth taking on. So let's stop stalling here. Let's get into what the trade would have to look like from a Raptors perspective. Obviously, if you're trading for Ja Morant, you are trying to move Immanuel Quickley. You are trying, essentially, with this trade to upgrade on your point guard. And I think that this is a significant enough upgrade that I'm willing to take a chance on the character and attitude issues that could come with it. Alongside Immanuel Quickley, Abaji is a guy you want to get off of because it's an expiring contract. And you'll have to sweeten the deal with a young player. I think there's going to be a bit more interest in someone like Jacoby Walter. I'd be willing to go this. Could you convince him to go Grady Dick instead? Maybe, but let's say more realistic to go Jacoby Walter. And there's got to be pick. It's got to be a pick this year. That's something I would try and throw their way and see what they say. One pick, I'm doing this because there's risk involved on our side in taking Ja Morant, but I'm willing to assume that risk for the upside potential. The problem is, will Memphis want this? Yes, they get the point guard replacement, but paying Immanuel Quickley $32.5 million contract per year for the next 3.5 years is not super desirable. It's only one pick here and one okay young player, but you think it's low, but Trae Young just went for no picks. I know that Washington have to pay him. That's part of it. But Trae Young just went for no picks. Now, there's a lot of value to expiring salaries, especially in this era of tax, CBA, cap, everything. But, there is a point guard replacement here. There is first-round pick equity for this year to strengthen the team. I don't think this is an egregious offer to throw their way and see what happens. Again, 2 picks. I'm a little bit scared to do 2 first-round picks. That might be a bit too far. But I could even attach a second or 2 to this and probably still feel comfortable. Maybe 2 seconds I go Grady Dick instead of Jacoby Walter, who I prefer to move Grady Dick than Jacoby Walter at the moment. But I think that there is enough upside here that I'm willing to do it. The fit isn't the greatest. I'll admit to that. You're putting in Ja Morant to a spot that Ja Morant's elite at attacking the rim. He puts a ton of pressure on the rim. He's a very good playmaker, but he's not that big of a floor spacer. It's kind of the appeal of Immanuel Quickley in theory, is that he can space the floor for the likes of Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Brandon Ingram. This does not help your floor spacing for sure. At least for Trae Young, he's a very good playmaker and an elite floor spacer. There is way more space for your offense there, but Ja Morant, not nearly as negative a defender as Trae Young. I wouldn't say he's a good defender. Absolutely not. And I think there's just enough upper tier talent there that in the right environment, hey, maybe reuniting with Darko Rajakovic helps reignite something for Ja Morant. Maybe this is a good situation for him to, put all the past antics behind him and dial in on court. I'd be willing to assume all of the risks associated for 1 pick, and not to mention, to be honest, we've talked about it enough here, that Immanuel Quickley contract at this point is it's a negative asset because of the contract. So Memphis, in a way, are helping you out by taking that Immanuel Quickley contract too. And this Ja Morant contract ends sooner than the Immanuel Quickley contract does. So for me, I'm interested. How desperate are they to trade Ja Morant? I feel like they should feel pretty obliged to want to move him in the next less than a month. Curious to see what sort of offers are out there. I'm sure there's some team that's going to give something better. Maybe. I'm not sure. I think there's a team that could give something better. But I do think there's a chance that this could be the best they got. And I'm willing to do it. I would be willing to gamble on this. It's 1 pick I can live without. It's getting off the Quickley contract, and it's taking a shot on a player who has clear MVP potential. Maybe not anymore, but maybe it's in there somewhere for us to find. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to do it. Curious to see what you guys think. I know the risks, but I'd be real excited to have Ja Morant in Toronto. Situations change over time, but imagine thinking a few years ago you could have Ja Morant on the team. Situations change quickly. Maybe this situation could change quickly for the better. We can fix him. We can fix him. The delusional thing a lot of people say ahead of a toxic relationship. I can fix him. I think the Raptors can fix him here. IQ, Oche Grady for Ja and Landale. Landale might be an interesting one to kind of piece in the deal. I didn't think about that, but I don't want to push my luck here, Ja has a shit contract. 42, 45. I mean, IQ's is shit as well, as you pointed out. Ivanovic. He's not playing well right now because he don't want to be there. When he goes, he'll play way better. I agree. I think when he leaves, he'll play better, which is why I think the numbers go back up if he comes here. I always pull a like button when it comes to you. I like the truth. I like less bias. You always keep it 100 with us. That's why you always get a like from me and my friends. We believe you. Well, thank you, Bulldog. I appreciate that. I'm glad you see the content that way. I just say it how I see it. I don't want to fabricate anything. I like the Raptors, and I just like to speak my beliefs. So I appreciate your support of the channel. Real G said I prefer to keep Jacoby. I mean, I would as well. But if, like, Jacoby is the thing stopping this deal from happening, it's not. Well, let's just say it's not for me. Like, if that's the sticking point, the deal's still happening. I don't think I'm going to look. I want to believe in Jacoby, but I don't think I'm looking back in, like, 5 years if he gets traded thinking, man, what a mistake trading him. I don't feel that way, sadly, right now. But I think he has potential in there. There's doubts over, like, getting there at the moment. Kind of wild how much players' value can fluctuate. Yeah, seriously, this was a player with MVP pedigree like 2 years ago. And here's where we're at. Flashing a gun on Instagram Live will do that to you, I guess. Quickley is one of the team's better shooters. Like, sure, he is, but he's not shooting well enough, and he's getting paid to be a lot better than just that. One of the better shooters on a really bad three-point shooting team. In the weeds says, I like it. Jaw's upside is undeniable. And also adds, we're 7-0 when shooting horribly from three. So I saw that stat. It's a pretty wild stat. When the Raptors shooting like less than 30% from three. I'll find the tweet. Here. So after yesterday's game, the Raptors 7-0 when shooting below 26% from three. And they're 17-6 when they shoot 26% or better. I don't find these to be correlated. I'm trying to figure out how that's the case. The biggest factor in this is straight up coincidence. Like, you're just bound to get silly little pieces of information like this. 7 is a very small sample. It is just we're just running absurdly lucky in games where we shoot like shit, I think is part of it. Sometimes it was, both teams play down to each other. Is it the defense steps up in games like this? Is it we have more of a priority and fixation on interior scoring in games like this? Probably a lot of the combination of everything I said. But again, I think the biggest reason this stat exists is just luck and coincidence. If you were to simulate these 7 games a million more times, way more often than not, we have an atrocious record in those 7 games. I think it's a fun stat, but I don't think this is like, see? Who gives a shit about shooting? Just build a team where no one can shoot and we'll win every game. Like, there's a large element of luck, I believe, to these statistics here. Science says, I can see their shooting improving with Ja Morant. Driving ability and energy brings when he plays his best. Yeah, the drive and kick game could help with some spacing and shooting as well. Yeah, I'm not going to forget that either. Yeah, that's something that could help. I just think there's too much talent to ignore. And when there's just that much talent, with the right minds in place, the team should be able to overcome some of the fit issues there. Those risks. I'm not saying there isn't. You are gambling on this working if you do it, but the talent, as we said in chat, it's undeniable. I would do it. All right, get your last questions in. It's been pretty much the hour here. I'm about to wrap up the stream. But that is not it from me for today. I'm going to be live 7:15 p.m. Eastern time for the Raptors game against the Philadelphia 76ers. Hopefully the Raptors can go back-to-back. I actually don't know if Joel Embiid is playing this one. He's not going to be playing back-to-back. So after not playing yesterday, he might be able to come in and play today. Yeah, I did see the Jaren Jackson Jr. If we had more time, I would actually talk about that. But I would love to bring Jaren Jackson Jr. into this team. I feel like Larry Markkinen would be good for Jakob and Barnes. The defense scares me a little, but the offensive talent is undeniable. So update on Brandon Ingram. He's a game-time decision today. That is good news. There's a chance he plays. Hopefully he does with the hand injury. Joel Embiid is questionable for today, so we'll see. I think he'll play, but he is questionable. Jaren Jackson would be a big one. In a future rendition of the Happy Hour stream, we are going to discuss Jaren Jackson Jr., the rumor there. We're going to talk about maybe Trey Murphy. And we're also, in a future one, going to discuss the impact of R.J. Barrett. And after a year of essentially trying to trade R.J. Barrett, has this situation changed for the Raptors? We will see. All right, guys. That's it for me on this show. I'll catch you in about an hour and 15 minutes for the Raptors game against the Philadelphia 76ers. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe for more content like this.